Sober on Purpose is the podcast that takes you beyond clean to fulfilling your dreams. Other programs get you sober. We ask what's next. Come thrive with us.
Hello, Sober on Purpose family. I have a very special guest for you. I have just spent the last 10 minutes fangirling out because I have been following her thanks to Elise Archer over at She Sells Radio. Shout out to you, Elise. This has really changed my growth and my healing process. So we are here speaking with Toni Jones, who came from a life coach mental health background, but now is an affirmation musician. So Toni, for those who don't know what that is, can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so what you would say, life coach turned affirmation musician. I was a life coach for 6 to 7 years, and I wanted to create a tool to build my clientele and to help my clientele. And so through meditation and prayer, I got the idea affirmation music, and I was like, this is so cool. And so it's a long story how I got into it, but essentially it was just supposed to be for my clients when I created my first album. It was supposed to be a tool that people, a wellness tool, a well-being tool to practice on the go, because a lot of my clientele were high active, busy women. So I'm like, these one-on-ones aren't doing it. And so I'm like, how can I hack this energetic hold that has my clients in a chokehold of thinking that they have to burn themselves out to get things accomplished. And then I got the idea affirmation music through meditation and prayer. And then when I released the album, my life completely just went. It was just destroyed. It was just like 2 weeks later after the album, everything changed in my world. And after a year of recalibrating, I realized this is what I'm supposed to do. It was just all the signals and signs were saying, Toni, close your coaching business. You are destined to be an affirmation musician, whatever that meant at the time. But now it's created a whole world, a whole genre of music for other artists to use their talents in music and with words to express a new way of talking to yourself. So affirmation music, affirmation musicians pretty much help people talk to themselves better through word and music and intention. Music has always had a medicinal legacy. It's the oldest medicine humankind have ever used. And so its sole purpose in modern times have been entertainment, but music actually has very much scientific research to back up that it has very much a medicinal purpose and components to it. So essentially, with that being said, being an affirmation musician is basically helping people talk to themselves better through music and words.
Awesome. I'm curious, when you produced this for your clients, what was the feedback you were getting?
After I did it, or
after you produce? So if I understand correctly, you were giving little bits of it out to your clients ahead of time, and then you went in and created the album.
no,
Have that backwards?
no. I actually created it for my clients. So, and to get more clients, because I was a part-time entrepreneur and I was full-time doing coaching in Detroit public high schools. And so I had financial security there until everything changed.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
and I lost my job. Everything just changed after I released that album. And so no, yeah, I created the album for my clients and to get more clients, but it wasn't that I was giving it bits and pieces to my clients. It was, I created this album, I'm releasing it out into the world, but I'm sharing it with my clients after I created it.
Awesome. What was their response?
How do you know how to do this? Like, how did you know how to say this? Like, what is this? Like, I never heard of anything like this before. They were just in awe of what the music was doing for them. It was so new. It was so refreshing. It was so on time. They were just kind of blown away. They treated it as though it was like a miracle or something.
I personally think it is a miracle. I'll read you my I have multiple favorite lines. I can't get them all out. I call all my power and energy back to me with divine care. Whoever or whatever is living off my life energy or light energy,
Like,
run that back and get your own. I was just floored by the fact that I didn't have to give all this away, that I could hold on to some for myself. I could, as you say later, guard the gift and decide who is skilled enough to receive and who isn't skilled enough to receive. How did all this just arise in you?
it's so interesting, Tanya, that, I've been doing this. I've been performing. Last year was my first time full time performing, like actually getting on the stage and doing what I do with music. But I started in 2019, so it was very, very new for me. But my relationship with words have been happening since I was a child, and I never really shared it with people because I didn't think of it as a value. It wasn't something that in my community, in my world, in my exposure was something that you champion to share. So a lot of my words and the way I express myself through words was always just in my journals and books. I didn't know it was something that was a gift or talent. And so it was just my way of expressing what was happening inside me. And so it wasn't until I released my music and got feedback that I realized, oh, this is something, you know? And so I've been through a lot of things, been through a lot of pain, and it's connected me to like the human nervous system, the human family's nervous system, to feel things that are beyond just my own experience. And so because of that gift and talent, I'm able to channel what's going on in our collective nervous system through words in a comprehensive, relatable way. And I honestly, truly believe I have a gift, but I also think that my heart is like some type of channeling vessel of messages that are far past me. Because there's times I've listened to my music now that I'm like, oh, I created this for my October 2022. Like what I released in 2019, what I released in 2020 was actually, however people benefit from it and receive it, I know that spirit, divine intelligence, high God, whatever you want to call it, was channeling a message for me to receive and to learn and embody on a very deep level in October 2022, in summer 2022. And the reason why I know that to be true is because when I listen to these messages, I'm like, I didn't practice this in January.
Yeah.
I didn't embody this with this person. I completely did the opposite. How did I know to say these things? And I'm trying to gather the data of like, well, I went through this in 2018. I've been through a lot that's given me a certain level of wisdom. But there's things that I'm saying that I know that didn't trickle down to my embodiment. So my heart and a lot of artists and a lot of metaphysicists say the heart knows no time. It knows no past, present, and future. So whatever you create from the heart can transcend time. And it can be relevant to your past, your present, and your future. So, in a nutshell, it's really, I feel like I'm a vessel to some type of higher communication from that unseen world to this physical realm. It's a indescribable existence or experience, if you will. But it also just feels like a recipe. It feels like that. It feels like it comes from my experience. It comes from my observation. It comes from things I've learned from books and from studying psychology and getting my degree. It's like a whole jambalaya of things, but at the core of it, it's coming from the heart. Higher messages being channeled through the heart. And my job,
Your
my
heavy
job It's been a heavy job that I pray and have faith. It becomes lighter and lighter as I continue to live. My job is to keep my heart open. And so, yeah.
You talked, you gave an interview about 5 months ago, and you talked about fostering the imagination. Is that's what's keeping the heart open?
Yes. I last night, I'll give you an example. Last night, I've got a download for my next album, and
Mm.
it's 4 parts. It's
Uh-huh.
4 parts. So it's going to be a 4-part album. Will be released 4 different times. And I couldn't believe, I won't say I couldn't believe, but no, there was no consciousness of what I'm going through. It was no consciousness of trauma wounds. It was no conscious of what this will do for people. It was full presence and enjoyment in creating, because I was in my imagination of what these songs felt like, what they sound like, and the way that I was just gathering that those downloads from my imagination was so exhilarating to me that it was like my brain didn't have any neural pathways of the past, of the future. It was that present.
Mhm.
And so I think fostering that imagination happens from creating, activating that creativity. And it wasn't till I was done, like I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning last night. And it wasn't until I was done where I remembered my pain. I remembered what I'm healing from. I
Mhm.
remembered like things that I've been dealing with, you know? And
Mhm.
I was just like, wow, imagination and creativity is like a true safe space for us. And so fostering that imagination is really just allowing yourself to be open to the possibilities of knowing that you can still create. You can still create a life. You can still create ideas. You can still imagine who you can be and activate that intelligence.
Even in the middle of painful situations. That's what I've heard you repeat over and over again, that this ecstasy, this joy, this creation can go on while life circumstances are not what you would choose them to be.
Ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm learning this as I go, because I know in the darkest hours, in my darkest emotions, in my lowest times, there's an idea. It's like in the cloud that it can be better. Even if I don't believe it, I entertain that being envisioned. Like I'm like, this is why I have to feel it. This is why I have to put one foot in front of the other, because there may be something else here than what I'm just feeling and seeing and interpreting and perceiving. Just that little that small, tiny spot of curiosity to say that there may be more than just this pain. There may be just more than what they did to me or what I allowed. It might be just more than that, because the receipts of my past show me that that's true. Every time I've been in any type of all that happened was I learned lessons, I got better, and I got catapulted into a whole nother atmosphere of being me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't like I graduated from 5th grade to 6th grade. I went from 5th grade to like college. You know, it was just like, so it's like, let me just stay and be present in this, feel this, and don't be afraid that it's going to take me over, even though it absolutely feels that way. So, in the middle of your situations, in the middle of your darkness, don't be afraid of the pain, and don't be afraid to entertain that tiny, tiny, thin space of hope and faith or possibility, because that right there is just enough for that to even be experienced by you, you know? And I'm a living witness even up until last night, until today, because I never thought that another album would come out of me this soon with all that I've gone through this year, you know? And so it's definitely it's just an honor to be able to experience duality in that way.
It blows me away to hear you talk about it. And for people who haven't heard Toni Jones's music, what she's talking about, what you see in this interview, comes through in the music, and you can find it all over YouTube. It's very accessible, but that genuineness, that true self, just radiates through the music, and it radiates so deeply for people who are willing to receive that it just radiates through. It radiated through me. I'll just speak for me. So what would you say to this is a phrase we hear a lot in our work is if he would just, if she would just, I'm waiting on them. What would you say to folks who are waiting on someone or something else?
Oh man, I could say a lot to that. I would say that it's not true. I would say that there's more to discover in that craving,
Mm-hmm.
in that grasping, in that attachment to that way of thinking and desiring, that there's a root to that that keeps you hostage for external permission, for external validation, for external security. There's a root to that. And everybody's talking about it. I mean, it's the talk of the town on Instagram. It goes back to childhood. And this year, I've gone back to childhood in ways that I didn't know I was deeply afraid of going back to. I've done so much work that I would think I was brave, that I would think that I was bold. I would think that I can walk through those walls of my past with flying colors. This year taught me how terrified I really been to go that far deep into my past. And the brain is a very interesting thing because it will protect you from remembering, but life will teach you the only way out is in. And you have to remember, meaning that you have to remember the memory of what happened for you to bring the members of yourselves back together, to recollect yourself. So you won't have to need someone to just do this for you to be this. So you don't need someone to fill this void so you can feel safe. It's a recollection of yourself when you're able to examine all that's made you. And it's not an easy thing. You definitely need support and allyship and professional space, quality space to go there because it can take a toll on your nervous system. So I would say that to people is when if you feel that urge to say or feel that need to feel like if they would just,
Yes.
if this would just happen, if I was just this, then this could be, if I had this, that is an invitation. That is an invitation to recollecting yourself too, so you can be all that you need, so that your spirit, your connection with divine intelligence, divine source can be your infinite supply of validation, security, safety, you know what I'm saying? Stability.
Right.
Because then that way you're free. You're free from anybody going in and out of your life. You're free from the changes of life that happen. You don't have to be hostage to the emotional triggers that happen because of change. You can feel it, but you can also just be able to release it. And I'm in the middle of this. So I'm saying it from very fresh out of the oven experience. I'm in it. Like I know what that feels like. And I have deep empathy and compassion for people who are very attached to that way of thinking and don't know how to get out of that.
Would you be willing, and I know you're in the middle of it, would you be willing to share some of the things that you're doing to work through the process?
I'm in therapy for sure. And sometimes I think it's crap.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think it's the best thing since sliced bread. Some days some days I feel like I don't need this. This is like this therapist needs me, or I can discern things about it's things about this therapist that I see that I don't know if they see that about themselves. It's because I'm an intuitive person,
Yeah.
but it's been very helpful to have that space. I would say therapy. I would definitely say confidants, like true confidants.
Mm-hmm.
Compatible confidants have helped. Everybody doesn't have that. So I do understand that, but it's been very important for me to have that. And I'll be honest with you, I feel like I worked for that and I've been gifted like compatible, capable, competent confidants that know how to hold space for what I'm going through. Rest, sleep, connecting to fun, rediscovering what fun looks like, being brave enough to let go of the idea of being a put together adult and that like letting that go has helped. So I stay with family. I got rid of my house. Moved out of my house and got rid of 80% of my belongings in 2019 and moved back in with family. And I've been with family ever since. I'm not ashamed of that. I feel very privileged to have a supportive family that where I don't have to worry about light bills and rent and things like that, because I know the way that I want to live. I want to live the van life. I want to live in the woods. And right now, my nervous system is not in that space yet.
Right.
So as I'm healing and recalibrating and reconstructing my nervous system, I need the safetyness of a home, and that I don't have to worry about that. And not to say that everybody should do that. I'm just sharing what my personal journey has been to cope in my journey right now. So having supportive community. I will also say, like I said, connecting to childlike fun, like being curious on what that is. Also, I don't suggest this for everybody. This is just what it's been real to me. I stopped reading books. I got rid of all the self-help books. If it's not fiction, it's not fun. If it's not Lord of the Rings or Star Wars, Avatar, magical fairies, like if it's not something that just is light, this takes me away from the deepness of life.
Right.
I've put a pause on that. That's not easy because I love to learn. I love to fix things. So if I'm dealing with attachment issues, I want to read about it. I want to but my body, my mind and soul is release the information. Connect with your soul. Connect with play. Connect with nature. Connect with your food. Connect with your hygiene. Like that's the things that have been calling me. And it's been really a mind hacker. So watching childhood cartoons like Rainbow Bright, Care Bears, things like that. Discovering new recipes and just, what I'm saying? It's like,
I know, absolutely.
It's connecting with nature, getting away, doing some sabbatical, because that's another thing about the perks of letting some of the idea of like being on my own. I got it all, like releasing that and having family support and staying in their home. I'm able to go away for a week or 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? So if that is something that some of your audience members can do, I encourage them to do that because it has helped me tremendously to reconnect with myself, because I'm in a new place with myself I didn't know about me, so I'm relearning what my desires are. There's desires I've had all my life that I don't have anymore. There's things that's always been a part of my identity that I just don't have an appetite. It's just not me. And I'm just like, how am I going to connect with this? How can my friends connect with this? I'm going to have to figure this out.
Yeah.
So those are some of the list of things that I've been like discovering on my path. Dancing, movement, slow movement has helped. Journaling, So these are just some of the things that have been helping me navigate that, to releasing the past and that old way of attaching myself and grouping myself to things that I definitely had no intention of letting go.
Yeah. And I think I can relate, and I think a lot of our community can relate, that when you do make a major life change, when you let go of some of the numbers or some of the things that you have been using to escape from the hurt or the deep work, that you're looking around going, okay, I don't want to be in those environments anymore. Now I want to make changes. When you're talking about the deep work, how do you step into that and still feel safe? Because that's pretty hairy scary sometimes.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been hard headed, so a lot of times my point of entries are through devastation and pain and betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's never like I'm signing up for deep change and deep expansion. Like I think once I decided, long time ago, I think it was probably in 2012. Once I decided, 2011, 2012, once I made that decision that I wanted to change, it was a point of like, I no return. If I would have knew that type of curiosity and decision making would have led me on the path, I would have never did it. I will be honest with you, I would have never, knowing all the perks and blessings, I'm just being honest.
Absolutely.
I would have never did it. I would have never did it. And so I think that ever since then, I've just, it's like, what do they say? What do the yogis say? They say, let go or be dragged. Well, I've been dragged. I'm one of the ones.
Would it have been easier just to let go?
Yeah. Well, I'm learning how to let go now.
Right.
I'm now learning how to let go. Whereas in the past, I've just been dragged, and so because I didn't know how to let go. And so being dragged forced me to have to let go, So now I'm learning that letting go is a part of life. Like we're in fall right now. I'm in Michigan and I'm watching the trees look so beautiful, but the truth of the matter is that that's death. It doesn't mean the tree is dead, but that's a part of their process. And that's how life is. And I'm like, how do I accept my own human experience of duality, the way that I experience the duality of the seasons and of the 24 hours going from daytime to nighttime? Like, how do I get to that space to where I don't get triggered by how it changes? And so because I'm learning that, I'm hoping, and my intention is that I'll learn how to let go when things changes, or when it's time to change, or when I realize someone is actually not aligned with who I am, and that it's actually more harmful to try and sustain this connection, in the long run, then it'll be harmful for me to let go right now. Like those type of things, learning how to let go and not grip and attach myself for the sake of connection or familiarity or a sense of safety and security. So I'm hoping that this was my last round of being dragged, and that I'm learning
let go.
that I can let go better than I ever have done before. And I believe I can, because I'm watching myself set boundaries. I'm watching myself communicate things that are very hard for me, that would have been very hard for me. But now I don't have the tolerance to be overly conscious of how people experience my truth. I'm sensitive to it, but I can't allow it to rob me from doing what's best for me, because I know where I'm at. I know where my nervous system is, and I don't have space to accommodate people feeling good about how I take care of myself.
Right.
And figure it out,
When I work with women, we talk about the pretzeling effect. I'm willing to twist and turn and pretzel to maintain that connection. Whatever it takes, I will shift myself for.
Yeah.
Where they end up, truly, if they really keep doing that time after time, is they end up voiceless.
Yes.
They're unable to voice their needs.
It's a personal hell.
Yeah. And when there's a couple things your energy budget, your worth ethic versus your work ethic. How are you reshaping your boundaries around your energy budget and who you're letting into your life?
Well, a lot of my relationships have been put on pause. A lot of my people call it the isolation or solitude season or whatever. And I'm still connecting with people, but not in a trying to overly make it happen. I'm pacing it out. But I've paused on all my friendships in a way, whether they know it or not, because a lot of the ways that I was connecting was very codependent. I'm realizing that I'm not as much of an extrovert as I thought I was. That it's not that I'm not, it's just, there's just things about me I'm figuring out. I'm finding that a new balance within myself. So the first thing that I'm doing is pausing on that. And then I'm watching how people interact with that. Some people intuitively understand. They there's some people that call to just pray for me or send me good vibes. and they don't want anything from me. There's some people that have tantrums, some people that are not okay with this, and their explanations and perspective is not invalid. It's like, I actually don't disagree with you, you know, but I can't accommodate I can't accommodate your perspective. So first of all, pausing on everything so I can learn how to connect with myself and how I've changed, or who I'm discovering who I truly am.
Mm-hmm.
So I can actually connect with people in integrity,
Yeah.
you know? So that's the first thing I'm doing. And so the other things that I'm doing is just discover myself. Like, I'm courting who I am right now, figuring out what I like and dislike. I mean, down to my appetite and the things that how I dress. It's so many details about me changing very fast on a weekly basis. So it's just right now, I really don't. I don't have. It's even when I say this, it doesn't quite capture how I understand it. It's like I don't have space to be who I've used to be with people,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm figuring out how to connect with myself. So I think, if anything, to answer that question is I am creating boundaries by pausing on a lot of things and creating space between my work and my performances. Some days I fully show up and do all the things. Some days all I do is my emails and I'm in the bed. I'm following the flow of what feels true. And it could be right or wrong, but I have to stay in that flow of what's truth, you know? And so that's one of the things that I'm doing. And I'm seeing the benefits of that energetically. I'm seeing the benefits of the synchronicity and the serendipity and the people that are coming into my life. I'm seeing my manifestation happen naturally without all the effort, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I'm doing something like effective by not knowing how to be effective. It's like I'm just being in the truth of where I'm at. And I tell people, these past couple months, I've never been so present and so intentional with myself more than I ever have. I literally feel like I'm doing this one foot, then the next foot, then the next foot.
Yes.
Like, that's how I'm treating myself like a newborn. And so with that, I have to say, hey, everybody can't touch this baby. Wash your hands. Like, I'm paying attention to people who have lives outside of me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what I know now more than ever, that I require people that have deep connections outside of me.
Mm-hmm.
They have a life, talents, and gifts and excitement outside of my world. I'm not just the only one being spiritual in their life. I'm not the only one having deep conversations with them. I actually need that in my life now, in this season. It may change 10 years from now, who knows? But the people that have actual lives outside of me are the people that I can keep close and that I can call and I can hang with, you know.
Are those people who are able to feed you as much or more as you can feed
Yes,
them?
absolutely. And the feeding has nothing to do with them giving something. It's just them being fulfilled, them
Right.
not needing or grasping,
Right.
you know. And I know it, and it's weird, it's very contradicting, because I was just doing that for so long with
Mm-hmm.
people that I wanted to keep in my life,
Mm-hmm.
grasping, hoarding, you know, feeding off of their generosity. Like, it's really complex when you see yourself do that with some particular people and not do that with other people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's very humbling to witness that within yourself, and then evolve into a space where you don't actually want that in your life, but you were embodying that for so long, you know. And
Absolutely.
so now, it's like the people that feed me are not the people that are trying to feed me. It's their presence is enough.
Yeah. They're
they're
already
being
full. They're
they're
already
already
full
full.
and they're
So,
overflowing.
and so we're both exchanging the overflow,
Yeah.
so it never feels like we're depleting ourselves.
And in with our community, sometimes when the person who has been the caregiver becomes voiceless, and then the other person decides that they are willing to do the self-care, they are willing to do what they need to do to bring themselves into more wholeness, the voiceless person goes, wait a minute, my role was to take care of you. Now what's my role? How do I heal? And it sounds like you're working through some pieces of that, of how do I come into more fullness, how do I interact with people with more fullness. And your flow state is really inspiring. We often think about flow as, okay, there's going to be a lot of protection that comes from flow. Sometimes it's the deep rest. It's the deep,
Mm.
deep rest that
It's the
changes
deep, deep
everything.
rest. The deep, deep, deep rest.
I interviewed a woman not too long ago who went through some really traumatic situations, and she said, I had to start dating myself. And you used the word courting. So have you been dating yourself to see what you like, what you don't like?
Yeah. Um, Dating, I wouldn't say dating for me. It's definitely been courtship because courtship feels like it's more curiosity. Dating feels like it has intention.
Okay.
You know, courtship feels like, and I may be wrong, but courtship just feels psychologically more inviting and more curious. And dating seems like it has this intention to like commit, and there's things about me I'm not necessarily ready to commit to, you
Mm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
There's things about myself that I know about myself that I'm not necessarily commit to. So I'm courting that and seeing like where I love and hate, dislike, change, heal, accept, make peace with. And yes, I'm definitely courting myself. I'm doing things I won't say I've never done before, but I'm restoring
Mm-hmm.
and reintroducing myself to, remembering like actually I do like this. I love spontaneity. I don't want to overplan my days. I don't want to over strategize my agenda or projects and vacations and solitude. Sometimes I just don't want to be in the I don't know. I don't want to be in the abyss of me just exploring and have an adventure with this.
Mm-hmm.
I like that approach to life. And then the right people come into my life to bring me some pieces that provide more ground and stability, like especially professionally. There's some things that I'm just not willing to do. Like I'm going to heal my relationship with money, but I'm not going to be my own accountant and CPA. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's just certain things that I'm not willing to do, and I'm going to trust that spirit and that my essence is going to bring the right people in. And so it's that part is learning that I don't have to be the master of every area of my life for
Mm-hmm.
me to be proud of myself
Mm-hmm.
too. So that courtship is giving me really the space to see what my no's, what my yeses, my likes and dislikes truly are in this season of my life.
How is that changing what you're receiving from the divine, from God, the creator, however you want to define?
How is it changing the way that I
How is it
receive?
changing how you're receiving? Yeah.
To be honest with you, the way that I'm receiving right now is terrifying, terrifying, and very liberating because the way that I'm receiving right now, it's like a faucet that's not turned off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like it's pouring into me. And so it's my role to create more space mentally, professionally, financially. I have to allow that flow of energy to have space in my life. So from what I eat, from what clutter I have, like I'm allowing all that energy to flow in all areas of my life to do a makeover
Mm-hmm.
or to just nourish what's there. So the way as it's like the resistance is melting before my eyes. Like before I'm witnessing the resistance melt in me because the faucet is on. The light has shined through. everything is, so much has been exposed. And so now my hands are just surrendering. I'm crying.
Yeah.
My, you know, my head is bowed, and I'm just like, fine, you got it.
Yeah.
And I'm watching spirit, I'm watching God, that energy flow into my life and bring chaos, to bring order. It's 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 this is not what this is not what I thought life was like.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it happen. So the way that I'm receiving right now, it's like I don't have a choice. It's either it's I have so much compassion for people who struggle with addiction, or people who give up, or Whitney Houston, Amy Winehouse,
Mm.
people who have their vices. I
Mm-hmm.
understand being human is one thing, but being the artist,
Mm.
being a creative, and having to receive that level of expansion of energy, like, and create space far past what you've known yourself to be, is a very hard challenge, because there's deep pains that you have, that you've known, that have kept you, that is who you are, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to allow that energy to get your perspective past knowing yourself as trauma and pain and abandon. You have to allow yourself to be a big deal, and
Mm-hmm.
to have the confidence that your past just doesn't allow you to. You have to actually love your past enough to say, I'm worth feeling big about myself. And that's new for me. That's new for a lot of creatives that have to get on stage and show up big, but actually go back into their private lives and still show up like I'm worth it, And so
Yeah.
I have a lot of compassion. I literally understand addiction, because there's been a lot of moments where I'm just like, okay, either I catapult into a whole new life, or go on drugs, because there's no way I'm going to be able to cope.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way I'm going to cope. I have to figure out how to cope with this expansion of being aware how deeply abused I've been, and also being aware of how grand and magnificent and beautiful a being that I am. Like, how my nervous system is used to, when bad things happen, have bad feelings. When
Yes.
good things happen, have good feelings. I'm not used to holding space for both simultaneously, where greatness is happening, but also destruction is happening at the same time. Despair is happening, but also liberation is happening. It's like, what in the world is this?
Yeah.
You're learning how my nervous system, my embodiment is learning how to hold space and have that big love to say, I accept it all, I receive it all, I allow it all to flow through me. And that is yeah.
In my tradition, you're having the Jesus love, because he was excited to be with his beloved, to be on earth, to be with people. He was also heartbroken when he looks at Jerusalem and says, why can't I gather you underneath me like chicks under a hen? That he could hold both. It's this awakening, this moving forward, I'm just totally inspired by you and your willingness to open yourself up and surrender to what's being given to you.
Yeah. And because I've known people who've talked like this, but they have vices.
Mm.
I know people who are conscious, and the way that they cope, I don't judge it, but I know it's something that I'm learning how to release my vices and allow healthier ways of coping for myself. That's where my work is.
Yeah.
That's where my work is. And so I'm seeing where people can stop, and this is just my vantage point of understanding. I could be completely wrong, but from my vantage point of perspective and understanding, I see where people kind of stop
Mm-hmm.
and find a home in that, you know, and then kind of like say it is what it is, you
They
know.
get tired and they
They
lay
get
by the
tired
wayside.
and they lay by the wayside. And I'm like, I don't want to do that, because what I've witnessed is that you get so heartbroken from that reality that you actually start hurting other people.
Hurt people,
You,
hurt people. Yeah.
yeah, and it doesn't mean that you can't be a blessing to people and you can't help people, but you can't avoid the infusion of your pain going into the way that you give and the way that you love. And so for me, from that observation, I have to create fun for myself. I
Mm-hmm.
have to create pleasure for myself. I have to create joy for myself. I have to be proactively involved in living of authentic, joyful life that includes me. Because if I don't, I can be heartbroken from this reality as well, you know, because I can't fantasize about people. I can't fantasize about spirituality. I can't fantasize about life. I have to actually look at what reality is and still make the choice that I am going to be a joyful being. I will my interest is me having fun in this life. And I say that with passion, but doing it is a real strong choice. It requires your strength. It requires boldness and bravery. And you would think something as simple is like fun, would you would just cross that off your list, but it's actually very challenging when your emotional reality doesn't feel that way. You have to actually choose it to embody that emotional reality.
That's amazing. I'm sorry we've come to the end of the hour because I had
No problem.
so much more. Especially, I come out of a trauma background. And if you didn't learn to play, if you didn't learn fun, if you didn't learn, oh, I like this, I don't have to like what everybody else likes, it is hard to
Yeah.
relearn that. You're
Yes.
absolutely right. It's really difficult to relearn those things. And
Yeah.
Toni, I really appreciate your vulnerability. I know there are so many from our audience that are going to really value all of this and really hear it and say, yeah, it is hard. Playing and fun is hard. Tell our folks where they can find you, where they can find your music, where they can find you for a speaking engagement, for a singing engagement, for
Yes.
all those things.
So all my music is on all streaming platforms: Amazon, YouTube, Spotify, Tidal, Apple, all the streaming platforms. Um, and then my website, I am ToniJones.com. That's Toni with an I. They can book me for singing, performing, or doing affirmation meditations for their staff. I have several different offerings. And my booking team will handle that. And then I have a membership group, which is called the Living Room, for
I was going to
people that,
mention that. Yeah.
yeah, the Living Room, which you can access on my website, where you become a member. And we're just a collective of people that are interested in talking to themselves better. Where self-talk is the main core intention. It's like we want to improve that so we can actually enjoy talking with each other, so we can build the communication skills with each other, because communication is the core requirement for a healthy relationship. Your communication has to be healthy. But if your own inner communication is toxic and rigid and bullies you,
Mm-hmm.
that's it's going to fall right into how you communicate to children, your spouse, the people you work for, the people that work for you. It's going to be infused in that in some way or another. And so this community is a space to build not only the skill sets, but actually meet other people in their area or their city that are actually interested in the same thing. And then every month I have like a podcast experience where I'm talking to somebody else, like another affirmation musician, another thought leader. once a month that we do that conversation. And then every quarter, I perform virtual concerts where it's like I'm making up the music, affirmation music right then and there. So
That's
it's
awesome.
called the living room. It's like this where we just come to live and talk and connect.
That's fantastic. So you can join the community. You can
Hmm.
go to the website if they want to bring you in for a performance. And most of your music is out there on YouTube.
Yeah.
You don't even have to go looking on Amazon or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
available. It is really, from experience, it's really worth putting it on before you go to bed. And when you get up in the morning, you could play it all
Yeah.
day if you're able to do that. It is life changing. So, Toni, I really appreciate you. I appreciate your vulnerability. I know you're struggling with the downloads. I'm really thankful that you're willing to accept it, that you're not laying by the side of the road giving up, that you're willing
Thank
to
you.
accept that because it's a gift to the rest of the world.
Thank you
Really
so much.
appreciate it.
I
So thank you
appreciate
for
that.
being here with us. I really, really
You're
do.
welcome.
Hi, Sober on Purpose family. Please be sure and subscribe. We have a ton more videos. We have courses coming up. We have a newsletter that comes out weekly. Plus, there is a podcast as well. And for those who are brave enough to really decide they want to move into the future, they want to move into their future self and leave behind the hurts, habits, and hangups that they have struggled with over the last year, I work with extraordinary women who are ready to step in, open their hearts, and find the true self that they can share with their family, their community, and the world. Because it's only when one person changes that the whole world changes. Are you ready to jump into that kind of adventure? Click the links in the show notes and let me know. Let's talk and see if we're the right fit. Again, remember to subscribe, videos, courses, podcasts.